I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah, we did this too much before. I'm going to wait a few minutes. Just there's still people trickling in. Can everyone hear me with the mic on? Okay, good. There are handouts I have up here. You don't need them during the presentation. I'm going to toss around a lot of numbers and figures and facts and stuff. So you don't have to worry about writing any of it down because it's all in the handout materials. If you have a pad to doodle on when you get bored, you don't need to grab this for now. It'll be fine later. I will wait, just vamp for a little while in case more people trickle in. And, I'm fiddling around with the stuff back here, getting used to it. I did find a bunch of petite serviettes, so if you find a dirty spot anywhere, I can help out with that in the next few minutes. It's marvelous. You do? Why not? I was looking around for something to do with it. I was like, oh my God. Oh, perfect. Anyone else? Stop doing that. I guess I learned how far I can stray from the podium. I guess we'll be recorded, video recorded and audio recorded now, so, watch the language. You're good in there. Well, I will go ahead and get underway. If other people trickle in, we'll make them feel welcome. Welcome. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm with BNA. I'm an indexing manager in the indexing department at BNA, and I have two teams that work for me: a legal team and a tax team. I've been there for about 15, well, actually closer to 16 years now. And I'm going to talk to you today about indexes a little bit, which I'm sure doesn't sound too exciting, but the fact is they do have a place in the electronic world, and I'm going to back that up with some facts and figures. Like I said, I'm going to be throwing around a lot of statistics. Don't worry about writing them all down. They should all be in your handout information. If there's something you want beyond that, I have boxes and boxes and boxes of raw data, and I'm happy to discuss this with anyone who will give me 5 minutes to talk about it with them. This shouldn't come as a surprise to you all, but the fact is people who rely on text searches simply are missing data. People that only rely purely on just doing text searches are missing things. Some experts estimate as much as 80% of significant content as being missed. There's good news. They don't have to. If they use...
You're on.
Oh, did I turn this one on? I think I turned this one on. I'm going to do this. Well, it keeps vibrating when I get next to it, I think is the... Perfect. We'll give this a whirl. I think it is better. Good? Okay. It's making me nervous. People are missing content, but the good news is they don't have to be if they use an index. That's something that BNA believes in. We invest heavily in indexes. We have a department of 33 full-time employees. Most of us are attorneys. All of us are subject matter experts. It's our job to help people find the information they need to do their jobs, which should sound kind of familiar to you. And why do indexes work? What's the magic secret? What's the secret ingredient? It's human input, very simply. There isn't a magic computer program out there that solves everything for them. It's the fact that the human being has taken the time to read all the information, to analyze it, and to classify it and organize it in a way that will make it easier to retrieve. Like I said, I've been doing indexing for about 16 years. When I first started doing this, people would say, print's going away. Everything's going to be electronic, and we won't need indexes anymore, right? Well, I didn't think this was true. A lot of us don't think this is true, but we decided we should put it to the test. Find out if in an electronic environment, do indexes in fact help? And if they do help, can we quantify how much? We decided to do a usability study using US Law Week. Rather than survey people on their habits, we thought we'd learn a lot more if we actually watched them using a product. We picked, very simply, we asked them to complete a series of tasks, answer a bunch of questions. For half of them, they used the text search. For half of them, they used the index. We picked Law Week for a bunch of reasons. One, we picked the BNA product because that's where I work and that's what I have access to. We picked it because it's the most generic of our legal services. We weren't really looking to study a particular product of ours. We were looking for general conclusions we could draw about all indexes versus all searching. We didn't want something like the daily tax report or an environmental reporter or patent, trademark, copyright journal, something where someone's particular subject matter expertise might skew how quickly they answer their questions. And it's basically, if you're not real familiar, I think probably most of you are, it's Law Week. It covers important cases and legal news from the previous week. And who are our study participants? We didn't get a bunch of stooges, we got a bunch of law students, which we went to 3 campuses, UDC, Catholic University, and American University, and we got 27 law students to participate in our test. I should thank Billy Jo Kaufman, who I saw earlier but is not attending the session, shows how smart she is. Also, Pat Pettit at Catholic U and Brian Baker, who was at UDC then, they helped us out quite a bit. And this was the ideal group of people for us to study, frankly. I think it's a group that you'd be interested in, obviously, and also, this is the future students, future law students, well, future attorneys, and for us, hopefully, future subscribers. So learning what their habits are, what their expectations are is certainly helpful for us in any design changes we might want to make. But also, more than any other group, we could assume a measure of uniformity, which is never true. People are all different, but at least with this group, we could assume they're all in roughly the same point in their career in terms of legal research goes. We're not comparing a first-year associate with someone who's been doing research for 20 or 30 years. And demographic-wise, stuff shouldn't surprise you too much, but most of these folks were in their 20s, about 2/3 of them. About a third were in their 30s, and there are a handful of folks in their 40s and 50s. In terms of print versus online habit, overwhelmingly they indicated they preferred online research over print. That was their big bias. 85% said that they used online research mostly. Also, interestingly enough, of everyone we surveyed, they said overwhelmingly the majority of them indicated they spent more than 16 hours a week on the internet. I actually wish we gave them a choice 0 to 5, 5 to 10, over 15. I wish we'd have gone higher just to see how high they really do think they spent on the internet, because it was overwhelmingly 75% said they spent more than 16 hours a week on the internet. So this is a very net-savvy group, a group that's used to using computers. I'm going to tell you a little bit about methodology of the study. I know methodology can be boring, but I feel like it's important at least to explain a little bit of it so that you can to establish the credibility of our results. Like I said, the participants completed 7 tasks total. By tasks, I mean questions. And the first question was completely unguided. It was just sort of given a chance to get the feel for what we were doing, for the experience, to get used to the laptop and the procedure. We didn't keep track of how long, whether they got the answer correct or how long it took them to find it. It was really just a sort of a warm-up. Then for the next 3, we asked them to use a text search. And for the following 3, we asked them to use an index. And these are the real study questions. Again, I know this may be difficult to read. All these questions are in your handout materials. I always share the exact questions. But just to give you sort of an idea, can a donut chain terminate its franchise for refusal to sell pork? Can liquor stores place ads in college newspapers? We went after the most important legal issues of our time. Burning questions, questions that keep people awake at night. Actually, we tried to make them not overly technical. We tried to make them kind of fun. We tried to make them things that people were interested in. If we could actually pique their interest, people want to answer the question. You get much better test results than if they just, I don't care. So we tried to go for something that wasn't overly technical and stuff that law students would actually be halfway interested in. We allotted 30 minutes for each study. That was beginning to end. We went on site to the law schools. We spent all day there, and we did one after the other, bang, 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 bang. We tried to make it as convenient as we could for these folks. Outside the study area, we had greeters, and it was their job to sort of greet the people as they came in, obviously, explain what was to be expected of them, and sort of control the flow in and out so we kept on schedule, and also to administer a pre-study survey and a post-study survey. That's where I got that demographic information I shared earlier. Inside the room, there was 3 more members of our usability study team, a proctor, an observer, and a timer. The proctor is the only one that actually talked to the students. It was their job to encourage them to think out loud, read the questions to them one at a time, aloud, hand them to them one at a time so they could read them themselves. Over and over again, the proctor's primary role was again, encourage them to think out loud. People would become absorbed in a task, and quite naturally they'd get quiet, they'd concentrate, and over again the proctor would say, "What are you thinking?" And it's important. The phrasing is absolutely essential. You never, "What are you doing? Why did you do that?" You know, how you phrase questions, you know, can make people defensive. So there's, I don't know how many of you been indoctrinated into the cult of usability studies. I've somewhat, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I did a lot of it. There's lots of do's and don'ts and absolute right and wrongs, and it's always important the proctor maintains absolute neutrality. Another member, the observer, we were really low tech. We didn't have, you know, one-way mirrors. We didn't have recording devices. We simply had a notepad with a template that we marked down. We wrote down everything someone would say, everything that they did, everything they didn't do. If they expressed disgust or joy, you know, we'd write that down too. And the timer, you know, unsurprisingly kept track of the time, how long it took them to accomplish these tasks. Now, both the timer and the observer didn't say a word. They tried to remain absolutely invisible and unnoticeable. The timer actually even used a silent stopwatch, the kind that you get in the broadcasting industry and the recording industry. So people didn't know they were being timed. You know, is that fair? Well, yeah, it's fair. If you tell someone I'm going to time you with a stopwatch, they become nervous and they behave unnaturally, and that's not good for your test results. So what did we learn? Well, we learned a lot. In fact, a lot of what I learned, I have to admit, came way before we went on site to a law school. We spent 3 or 4 months preparing for this, and it became really obvious to me pretty soon that the phrasing of these questions was hugely important. Maintaining that neutrality was difficult because you kind of faced with a choice. Do I use the exact phrasing, the exact words that are used in the text, or do I use something different from that? Either way, you're making a choice. So we had to try to, what we did, we tried to come up with natural sounding questions that were actually like what people would ask, and strike a balance. That's why I always share these. And actually, one thing, we were testing it on guinea pigs in-house, and I pretty much grabbed anyone I should say this. People I didn't think knew a lot about the index, but I don't mean that in a demeaning way. But one of the people I got to do it was the head of our BNA Plus, which is the 1-800 number you call in if you need help with research questions. And she used to answer the phones for a long time, and she said, you know, these questions sound pretty typical of what we get. So I took that as a little validation. Other thing we learned was that there are certain types of questions that are very, very, very difficult to answer using a text search. What types of questions? May you have luck using a text search? Anytime you have really specific facts, unsurprising, it seems like you can have some good luck using a text search. Anytime you're only looking for just one isolated piece of information located in one place, you can have luck using a text search. And of course, proper names. if the form is consistent and the spelling is known, or also if you have those, that might help you using a text search. But there's other types of searches, other types of questions that people need to answer where text searching is going to fail you every single time. Anytime the language choices are not universal. It sounds obvious, but it's true. Like in English, we know lots of times, is someone looking for information about wrongful discharge or termination of employment or firing, or any time that the language someone can use might not be universal, you're going to have much better success if you use an index. Anytime you're looking for all of the relevant information on a topic, not just one instance of it, you're going to have much better success if you use an index, because it aggregates that information and concentrates it in one place. If you're interested in concepts and not words, and frankly, a lot of times people are interested in concepts and not words. Text searching only recognizes a word. If you're looking for information about judges, and you go to the Law Week Index and you look under the subject heading of judges, you can be certain that every single thing there pertains to judges. But if you do a search, text search on the word judge or the word judges, you're going to get a bunch of bad hits back. So, the moment we've been waiting for. Which method fared better? Suspense was killing me too. Overall, index users had an average success rate of 86%. 86% of the time they found the complete full answer to the question that they were looking for. Yeah, if you can't see that, 23% was the overall success rate for text searchers. Pretty big disparity. What about time? Do the indexes save people time? Sorry, the other slides will not have sound effects, I promise. That's just sort of, make sure people don't nod off the middle of the presentation or anything. Overall, index users found the answer they were looking for in an average of 57 seconds for all the questions. Took 2 minutes and 47 seconds on average for the successful text searchers to find their answers. I'm talking about the 23% who actually found it. 77% of the text searchers never did find the answer they were looking for. We did not keep track of how long it took them to not find the correct answer, to not find an answer. And what we would do is we gave them 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes we cut them off. And I did not average in that 5 minutes to these, or that it just would have skewed the average even more so. If people got really frustrated, we said, that's okay, we'll move to the next one. We moved them on. So we didn't keep track of, it wasn't exact, it was about 5 minutes when we cut them off. And that's what the fine print at the bottom says. Only completion times of successful text searchers were compared for time. Yeah.
Do you have a number of how many people failed to complete at all those questions?
Oh yeah, I mean I've got there's 27. We kept track. Each one did seven questions. These are the averages, and we kept track of each of off the tip of my head, 20. If you do backwards the math, I'd say 77% of them did not find the answer at all.
When we say success, success versus failure to finish it in the 5 minutes, or failure to come up with the right answer.
Failure to come up with an answer or the right answer. And by the way, like with these questions, we'd say, we don't care whether the answer is yes or no, or right or wrong, or 3 or 4. We said, just tell us when you find information that's relevant to the question, tell us what page number you found it on. Like we didn't care, because some of them are like, they're constitutional things. Parental consent right for abortion laws, are they constitutional? Like we don't need to tell us whether they are or they aren't. Just tell us where you found the information. So that's how we measured a successful answer. Did they locate information? And we knew what information was there. It's sort of in that sense it was a closed, controlled atmosphere. We didn't send them looking for anything that wasn't there. Well, to drill down a little bit, just to get this is the easiest task, the one where the text searchers did have some success, almost as successful, in fact, as the index users. And the question was, can liquor stores place ads in college newspapers? You can see, 92% of the text searchers found what they're looking for, compared to 100% of the index users. But look at the disparity in the amount of time it took them. Index users took an average of 24 seconds to answer this question, whereas text searchers required, on average, a minute and 26 seconds. Which is a pretty significant, disparity for a. It may not sound like much, but you add that up over a day. It's a pretty significant disparity for a pretty easy task. But if you look at the other questions, the ones that were more difficult for the text searchers, the disparity becomes even larger. Social Security, the question is it legal for a company to ask me for my Social Security number over the internet? 43% of the text searchers were able to locate the information they needed to answer that question, compared to 100% of the index users. And it drops down even more after that. Defense contracts, do people with do blind persons get preferential treatment in bidding for defense contracts? Only 5% of those using a text search were able to locate that information, compared to 86% of the index users. And after that, it gets even worse. 0%, 0%, 0% success rate for the final 3 questions using text searches. And the index is still doing pretty well. Oops, I just did what I thought I wouldn't do. I should just quicker. 77%, 62%, and 93%. And you look at the disparity, the timing difference, and it's still holding up to roughly about the same. For the successful text searchers, it's still taking them about 3 times as long as the successful index users to find the answers to their questions. Again, this information is also in the handout material that I'll give out to you afterwards. I'm going to show you, this is the question that the people doing text searches, yeah?
Did you give them any training in advance? You may have
0 training. No.
As to how to use search the database for the index.
No training whatsoever. People came into this blind. The closest thing, they had that warm-up question where we didn't keep track of the time. We actually did keep track of the time. We just didn't tabulate it. It was a practice run for us too to keep track of time and how that went. But no, they just walked in. They looked at it. Jumped in and started using it. This is.
Can I just ask a follow-up
Sure.
question?
Absolutely.
So, this was on the BNA website. It was the exact same.
This is the live. This is actually the live product. We narrowed our searches to just that current year's volume. We didn't go to previous volumes, but it was a live one, and we did all the tests within a month period, so there wouldn't be too much change. Actually, mostly within a 3.5 week period. We tried to do them right after each other. Yeah.
Did you say that what was second and third years, but it's only third years?
It was majority. It was. And this is one of the things I wanted afterwards, which we'd have tabulated. I don't know. There was two. The Catholic University was actually an advanced research and writing class, or legal research and writing class. So they had exactly the right number of people in their class, and that's what we needed. So it was an assignment. So I'm really not sure. Sure.
In terms of when you formulated the questions, did you have a good idea which questions would be easy to answer on a text search and which wouldn't be?
It became apparent, yeah, as we started doing these. And that's first I thought, well, this isn't fair. They're not going to be able to answer this using a text search because I'm asking them, how many death penalty cases appeared in Law Week class this year so far, and yet we decided it was. You can't just give them all easy questions. We wanted to explore that. Which ones were? So we came up with everyone answered using both methods. We had 3 questions in each side. Each one contained what I call the how many question. With information located in multiple locations. Each one had a question that we thought had very specific facts. That would be easy to find using text searches. So we tried to keep those as balanced, both sets. And so we had an idea, like I said, as we're testing everyone and as we're coming up with these questions, people were very literal. Like they would, if you asked, however you phrase it, they'd go search on that. So we did have an idea. And we were trying to show get a mixture. We could have asked them 100 questions and learned a lot more. We thought 7 was a humane number. We could do that in 30 minutes. We're not going to keep them here forever. We're not paying them, frankly. Giving them gifts and being nice to them, but that doesn't count for much. So we did. And by the way, I'm hoping we have lots of Q&A. We'll have lots of Q&A time at the end too. But this is the tricky one. And it was simply the how many death penalty cases appear in Law Week.
Well, it says articles, not cases.
Okay, I'm sorry, articles. You're right. And the index user success rate was 93%. They found their answers in an average of 54 seconds. Oops, I keep doing this. Not used to this mouse, I'm afraid. Whereas the text searchers, none of them got it right. And this shouldn't be surprising. Like I said, knowing this, we weren't really shocked because we thought with everyone we tested it on, they had difficulty with these type of questions. And this is what you see, and I know this is hard to read, so I blew it up. This is actually the, if you go to death penalty in the Law Week Index, you'll see a cross-reference, death penalty, see capital punishment, and you click on that and it takes you to the capital punishment heading. And it's real easy for the index folks to just, index users, just count them up, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And we weren't even really that rigid. Like, we weren't, you know, close for horseshoes was fine. You know, we're like 11, 13, 12, just in that range. We were accepting that as a correct answer. We weren't testing, because some of them, like one of these actual cases was that there was one article was one case and there was a follow-up article on the same case. And like, we don't want people to split hairs over, but is this a different separate article or is this related, just anything in the ballpark. And the text searchers couldn't even get that. You know, they could tell me how many hits they had, but they weren't confident that they had everything that they were looking for. In fact, they did not. This is what you see if you do a search on the word death penalty, and remember to enclose it in quotation marks. And by the way, we saw probably about 100 different searches in the half of 27 people that did it that way. Again, I know this is really hard to read, but even in the top 10, I took the top 10 as they appear, not my favorite 10. And of those, only 7 really pertain to the death penalty. 2 of them pertain to the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, is mentioned in the story. It's actually talking about aliens who are at risk for being deported for felony convictions. So, you know, again, the text search only recognizes the word. It doesn't realize the context behind or the meaning behind it. And you can also, you know, penalty provisions for death benefits, you know, these sort of stories would pop up as people did a search on death penalty without enclosing it in quotation marks. So objectively, we have some statistics. We're talking about an 87% success rate versus a 23% success rate. We're also seeing people find their answers in about a third of the time using the index. But what about subjectively? We're talking about people who spend a lot of time on the internet. Did they like the index? Did they not like it? Overwhelmed, 85% of those we surveyed indicated that they found the index either very easy to use or easy to use, compared to 41% who found searching easy to use. So objectively, subjectively, things are looking good. But indexes, if no one uses them, they don't do any good. So of the people that we had, that the students that used, none of them had used the index before. So that's something I should be concerned about, or at least scratch my head and ask why. I mean, is it a design problem? You know, do we need to put a big flashing button, make it where they can find it, they just don't stumble onto it? That's certainly, it's certainly something that we at BNA are interested in, and other publishers too, and also we're very interested in hearing from folks like you who actually see people using our product and can offer us feedback. So please, please, please let us know how we can do our jobs better. You know, indexes in books have been around since the Middle Ages, but this is still pretty new, this electronic era, and so we need help figuring out how people use our products. Is there a problem with the name? You know, is index something that people look and they go, you know, that's a dusty old book thing. You know, I'm on the internet. I'm looking at, you know, I don't want to use an index. And I actually have heard this from folks at our call center, the 1-800 number. I went and talked to them about something else that had nothing to do with the study, but they said, yeah, we always tell people to use the index, and not every once in a while, but more than now and again, they'll get the, I don't want to use the index. I'm on the internet. I want to get the answer real fast. Type a word in and go. If we named it something differently, would people like it more? A lot of folks think that might be the answer. Is it a question of education? Do people just not know about it? They don't expect to see it out there. I think there's certainly an element of that we need to get the word out. What's in a name? One thing just about the name, the issue of should we name it something sexier than index? Indexes are frequently called something else. You'll see A to Z button or topics. You'll also see websites without indexes. You'll also see websites without indexes, but they have something they call an index, but it's really just an alphabetization of a bunch of headlines. And I think this sort of, people don't know what to expect. They're confused. They don't know. They don't know to look for an index. And I think that certainly is contributing to people not using them as often as they could. Educating researchers. I think this is an important point to make. The important point I like to make is that, you're in a hurry, you don't have much time, don't have time to use the index. Well, it turns out the index might get you there in a third of the time or less. Are people confident in their search results? Do they really find everything they're looking for? If 1 in 3 is good enough, great. But if you're looking for a barbecue grill and you get 3 hits and one's at Sears and that's a mile from your house, great, you're done. But if you're doing legal research and you find 1 case out of 3, that's not good enough. Are there just too many hits to wade through? You're just going through garbage. You're wasting so much time. You might be better off using an index. Are you finding everything? It's weird. Like I was talking to people when I was doing this. It was really, I will say honestly, the study was fun for me, but it was just exhausting. Emotionally and mentally and physically exhausting to go around, spend all day back to back, trying to be neutral and racing through these things. And I tell people, they want to make plans to do something with me, like friends or whatnot. I had nothing to do, not colleagues. Like, what are you doing again? And I'd sort of give them the 2-second, thumbnail version of it. And they'd go, oh, yeah, a lot of people really don't know how to search. They're just, idiots unlike me who knows how to search. It happened over and over again. Smart people that I knew that they kind of got the idea. It's like, yeah, but if you know what you're doing, you can find everything you need just by doing a few simple searches. It just isn't the case. It just doesn't matter how smart you are, how good a searcher you are, because of certain text pitfalls, synonyms, words with multiple meanings, Text searching is just not going to recognize whether, if you do a search on dumping, am I talking about, international trade? Am I talking about environmental law or what? You can save a lot of time by using an index. You can spend a lot of extra time doing a series of text searches. An index considers the context, the meaning behind the words. It also uses cross-references. People say, I didn't use the index because I didn't know, or I don't know what term I'm looking for. Well, just jump in. The job of the index is to guide you there. If everything's posted to physicians, there'll be a cross-reference from doctors or a cross-reference from death penalty to capital punishment. Control vocabulary. This is something that librarians understand, the rest of the world may not. But as we know, in the real world, vocabulary is inconsistent. And in an index, you can count on the fact that the same term is going to be used every time to represent a concept. But I like searching. It's easier. Sure. Just try searching the index first. It's the same thing, only you get all the benefits of the index, the controlled vocabulary, the cross-references. Related information. We were at American University. This is toward the end of the day. And there was a young woman who was getting ready to answer her first question using an index. I was a proctor. I read the question aloud to her. She looked at it. She put her hands on the keyboard. She clicked a couple times. She stopped. She gasped. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You don't want me to do this. Oh my gosh." And I said what I always say. What are you thinking? And she goes, well, this has nothing to do with the question that I'm supposed to be answering, but there's this heading here on cybercrime. I have to write a paper on cybercrime. Can I just look at these? And she's looking at it. She's excited. She's like, this is great. I can use all this stuff. And I remember looking at my timer, and my timer, who's remaining silent, that's her job, is making eyebrows up to here, And I'm going, well, this is just going to totally, skew the results. Just going to throw the timing aspect of this one down the drain. But I was happy. I was sincerely happy for the young woman because, I figured at least one person today is going to walk out here and go, well, I didn't waste 30 minutes today. And I also figured I made an indexing convert for life, so I was still feeling pretty good about it. But it makes a really good point, and I like to bring this up, and that's that you may know exactly what you're looking for. You know exactly what it is. You remember the case name, but there may be something else out there better than what you're looking for that you didn't know about. Because indexes collect related items and group them together. This sort of accidental serendipitous discovery happens all the time. Keep on training. You asked this earlier. How much training do people get? None. We did text searching first and index searching second, which would not have been my first choice because I did not want to be accused of any sort of learning bias going on. However, it became apparent that was the humane thing to do, to let them finish on a strong note and start, so they felt a little bit better as the study went on. When people were asked to shift to the index portion of the study, we just simply said, okay, now find the index, or now use the index. The most instruction we might have given them was just click it again, or click a little lower, or there you've got it, and that was it. And we left them alone. There was didn't tell them how to find what they're doing, just and they got it. That's an index's job is to be user friendly. We don't always get that right in the electronic format era yet, but we're working on it. And I gave you that average. 54 seconds was the average completion time. 24 seconds was average for the question that was most easily asked or answered. But the fact is, what was really impressive weren't the averages. It was the people on the top end of that average. Watching those folks who would go in there, read their question, and get their answer in 7 or 8 seconds. It didn't happen every time, but it happened a lot. And that's, it's very gratifying, but also fascinating to watch. Okay, I've been talking about... I want to address, not that there's any critics in the audience, but if there are, I understand. I've been sort of stressing the human element, the fact that human input is important. I realize that, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not anti-technology. I don't think anyone in this room, of course, would be anti-technology. But the fact is, there's folks that are actually out there saying, I've got a computer program that can do what a human being can do. And that's just not the case. I can speak on behalf of my company. We use a lot of technology. Has been the best thing that can happen to us. Computers been the best thing that can happen to indexes. It improves our efficiency. It improves our accuracy. We work a lot better. We've got like over 100 different utilities, special programs, scripts that let us slice and dice things, manipulate the data within indexes, tailor our indexes individually to what our subscribers want. It's been real helpful, and certainly in terms of accuracy, we can now validate. Do the links work? The cross-references match up exactly? All this stuff has been wonderful for us. So I'm a big appreciator of what computers have done for us in the indexing world. They've actually made the print indexes quite a bit better. But they're not here to replace us. Robots are hopefully not going to take over the world and take all our jobs away. I have one big point, and that's indexes. I believed indexes were better. We did a test. We found out they were definitely better in the electronic environment that we studied. 87% success rate, versus 23%. With people finding what they're looking for in about a third of the time or less. They ensure accuracy. They save people time. But if no one uses them, they don't do any good. So I'm asking you to be zealous advocates for indexes, because I don't want to have grandkids come up to me, and ask me years and years from now, like, grandfather, what was an index? I want them to demand, where's my index? Show me the index. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions, we have plenty of time. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me like there's a follow-up you need to do to really know whether what you're saying is correct in the long run. As you indicated, these students hadn't had any training either way. It may be that an index is easier to use without training, but that as you get training in text searching and know how to do it, it may be easier. I mean, anybody who's tried Westlaw searches, for example, not to mention a competitor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. No, we have friends who work
As you get more experience with them, you have a better idea of how to do them. So I think what you need is a follow-up where you give them training in both of those and then see how these differences.
Yeah, maybe. We sort of thought that everyone that came in, would have been searching their whole lives and may or may not have been using an index. all we know, we didn't ask them specifically, do you do searches, have you been trained in searches? We did ask them, like I said, that, how much time they spend on the internet and whatnot. I always think everything should be intuitive. And you shouldn't have to be trained on anything because people don't read or they're too lazy or they don't want to be trained. But certainly, that's a legitimate point. Yeah.
Do you intend to publish the results of your study?
I'm glad you asked. People have asked me that, and this is real. Believe it or not, this is not my day job. I'm a guy. I'm a guy in an indexing department with folks who report to me, and I train people and hire indexers and help ensure the quality of them. And we put a lot into this, and certainly it wouldn't take much more to push it past that. It's just so far we haven't. We got the 27 people that participated in our study was good. Like most people that do usability studies say you need at least 10 to have meaningful results from it. Most statisticians and they say if you want meaningful statistics you need 50. I wouldn't mind going to study another 23 people. Certainly, have to start it over at this point. But I guess my short answer is beyond this, no. But maybe I could convince my bosses I can do it.
But there's so little published empirical research on this, particularly in the law field. It'd be nice to have it.
Absolutely. No, and there's so far has been very little of this done. So there's definitely a need for it. People don't know. It's still new. Yeah.
I'm curious about how the students, if they recognize that they thought they were doing better with some questions than others, and obviously if they weren't getting an answer, they may have recognized that. But then I thought about that death penalty example you gave. And I can see a lot of students saying, hey, I'd want to be able to look through 25 or 30 articles and make a decision whether I thought they were good or bad, instead of looking at the 10 that your indexer. And so we will hear that, and I'm wondering if you've thought about, and there are, I know some of the arguments to that, but I'm thinking of trying to convince students, and wondering if going through this convinced them, or your thoughts about convincing students.
So you're asking me like what their reaction was there, and 27 people, they're all over the map. There were definitely there were some folks that go, I got 20 hits, there must be 20 cases, and they were done. And I guess the short answer would be most people seemed happy with it. They could tell when they looked at what the hits were. Like, there were folks that said, do I really need to click on all these to find out whether they're relevant or not?
But they asked that about the index. So you have an index hit, and there it says death penalty. There are these cases, but
people vary. It definitely varied from you saw personnel. Like some folks would they'd find it. You'd think they found their answer real quickly, and then they spend the next couple minutes drilling through and reading them. It just sort of varied. I think I don't really think the index prevents you from doing that. I think if you really want to check them out, it's true. You either have to put faith in someone, and human beings, vetting these things for you. They're doing a step that you would otherwise do yourself, which is pulling all that stuff together, and you have to decide whether you trust them or not. I didn't tell them anything about the index. I didn't tell them, these are attorneys that are doing it. These are people who've been, most of them practicing in that subject area before they started indexing in there. But and I have encountered people who said, I don't trust a human, I just want a machine. They're more trustworthy. Yeah.
Before you did this little study, did you do a literature search, not just in the law area, but in the general scholarly literature, to see if there were similar studies, and if you found them, how did the data compare with what you did?
I didn't find anything just like mine. I found stuff, and I didn't find much. As we're like, I went to a conference. It was like a month. I presented the results of the study for the first time at AALL a couple years ago, going on almost 3 years ago now in San Antonio. And a month and a half before that, I was at an indexers conference, and there was a young woman, Alana Kingsley, at University of Fairbanks, Alaska, and she'd done a study. It wasn't legal research. What she compared was free library websites, those with indexes and those without them. And it definitely is the same thing. Not the same thing. It was very different in terms of they weren't legal research that people were doing. It was mostly like, can they find out, what the fine is for an overdue book, those sort of policies like that. it seemed like they're a lot easier questions in some ways, but not necessarily, because you wouldn't necessarily know what terminology someone would use for overdue book, you know. And it was the same thing. I mean, her results, I don't know if they were quite as dramatic as mine, but it was certainly people found the answer more readily using the index, and they also found it more quickly. She had a lot more sophisticated measuring, you know, how many clicks people took to find it, and she sort of spent more time. I really wasn't concerned, and you know, we kept some track of how many searches people did, but it sort of seemed like as long as they thought they were going in the right direction, they didn't really care whether it was 2 clicks, 3 clicks, or 1 click, or 2 searches, you know, as long as they were making progress. But I haven't really seen much in terms of just strict legal research before or after. I'm always interested if anyone hears about a study, please let me know. Yeah.
I'm not sure why the searching has to be mutually exclusive. I mean, you could layer the index on top of your full text search and have your results split into your index results and all others to answer what you were saying. So
Absolutely.
Has BNA thought about that?
Well, yeah, and in fact, you know, that is what we're doing now, or we're in the process. Not all of our, we're shifting to a new web platform. Well, we've been in the process of shifting to it. Monday, is it really Monday? Okay.
It's going to be on Monday, but
Yeah.
it doesn't launch till the fall.
You can see it Monday. It'll probably look really brand new and lots of problems, I'm sure. But no, we're shifting all of our notification services to a new web platform. And the new approach will, yeah, you do the search, and it automatically, you know, shows you index results as where it appears in just text elsewhere. Which I agree, they should not be exclusive. And that's, you know, people talk about design stuff. My favorite thing is always either have the searches automatically do the index and put those results on top. Some people disagree with me on that one, but anything else? Yeah, Glenn.
On a more general level, when people do web searches, say with Google or Yahoo, are they doing text searches or index-based searches? What is their technology compared to yours?
I don't know how Google does what they do. I think they do it really well, and they definitely have. It's index assisted. I know that. I just don't know what it is. I'm sure they don't want me to know. Yeah, you're not just doing a pure text matching search there at all. I have a question. I got a email yesterday from Lowell Thomas. I don't know if he's in here, but anyway, I guess he's a CALI guy. But he sent me I guess the Atlantic has the most recent issue has an article. It's either on the cover or pretty close to the front. Like, is Google making us more stupid? And it was I love the article, although it was sort of a depressing notion. And the idea was that, and there have not been any studies done on this, but people are saying, hey, you know, I find my ability to read long articles and concentrate, you know, it's just not what it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever. And it's a lot of people are saying, I surf, I get my answer, and I go out, and I just I can't. And you know, folks are raising concern if we lose the ability to, you know, is it going to change? That's the one. Thank you. That's it. Is Google making us stupid? And I love the way they spell it with 2 O's, which may be another question: is spell check making us bad spellers? Because you see, I think I've seen that, but the idea is that you know, people are used to skimming things, or they're learning to think differently, you know. And just read the article. Don't let me try to sum it up for you, but it makes me, you know, the thought was that it may be happening, and we probably have not seen it yet. We don't know the answer yet, but we'll know in the next 10 years or so. And you know, what does that mean for indexes? Like, my thought is, it doesn't make them less relevant, it makes them more relevant, because people are like, I don't want it, just give me the little summary of the case and let me skip through a bunch of stuff, and I'll click on the ones I really want or not. But has anyone seen anything? No, I'm not asking you to confess personally, but if you've noticed any trends or changes in the way students are thinking or what their expectations are, yeah.
I don't think it's just Google. I think it's TV, video games, everything is. If you look at TV compared now to 20 years ago, everything's in little short, like everything, you know, like you can't even look at something and it's gone. The image is gone to the next thing. I mean, I don't even watch TV anymore. But I mean, it's really. I think young people, like kids, for example, don't have attention span for looking at something for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I think another analogy might be the library catalog. We have whole departments that analyze and make available all the information about the stuff we have, and yet the students especially hate to use it. They despise it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's not a card catalog, but it's Googleized, and if it's not Amazon-like.
Yeah.
Now that's another problem. We spend a lot of money for these systems, and they're not
Right.
Amazon-like. But that's another. Seems to be somehow related.
I think it is. I don't know what the answer is, but there's definitely, yeah.
I think that students are different now, but I don't know that they're more stupid. And so that if you get them into, and seeing, they're also very what's now called just-in-time learners. And so once you hook them into something like an index, I have seen it work, and they'll remember to use it and say, oh, once they see that it works for them, but if you tell them a lecture that there's this great thing called indexing and it'll save you time, it's not going to, they're going to ignore you because they don't need it right then. And so that you can work with students, and they're just as smart as we were. They just learn a different way. And they will go then start using the index. And my guess is that woman who saw all that would jump back into it. I don't know, I get a little fearsome because I always have to check what my teaching is. Am I teaching this because that's the way I learned and therefore I think it's the right way? Or is it what our students need now?
Other thoughts? Yeah?
Do you keep any statistics on your system as people using the index?
Not now. I don't know. Yeah. It's in a way I'm kind of afraid. What if no one's using it? What do I tell my staff? Keep doing it. You're doing great. I'm just doing my resume. Much easier to manage then. No, it's sort of funny. We've had BNA's had some sort of fairly minimal usage feedback, and we've learned stuff we already knew. People really like the highlights, and sometimes they'll read all the highlights every time they come out, but not read every article. And it sort of reminded me my own newspaper habit, kind of I have to have a newspaper when I wake up in the morning, and I have to get the whole thing. I probably read 4 or 5 articles in their entirety, maybe, and half of those are in the sports section. So I read all the headlines, and so it's do we not index because people don't use it that day, or they use it once when they just really need to find something? I don't know. No, I don't know. I'd be, like I said, I want to know that a lot, and I'm also afraid of it. But short answer, not yet. I'm sure we will at some point. Yeah.
Just a general thought on searching versus indexing and a possible way of incorporating it together. Because if you did a search, and if your search came up with various indices, then you'd be able to have a tree kind of context along with the searching context. And it would be a way of actually kind of forcing people to view the index because it's right up there in front of them along with the regular search criteria. So if the index is actually, they should see the indices, so it's more of a user interface.
I think that's a good idea, particularly as we get more and more information, or if we're talking about what I work with, or BNA products, we have big web libraries with lots of stuff on there. You just can't see the whole thing, or you don't want to click through the whole thing one section at a time chronologically. You want to get some sort of framework and logic, or structure that's logical to you. I agree. Yeah.
To follow up on that comment, I'm out of BNA, but I see with working with some of the customers that they'll use the index, but if they can't find a correct term or part, then they go to keyword searching. But where I think we're making the disconnect is showing them how to search the index.
For sure.
And I think the difference more and more, maybe more attention that is going to help that.
Hopefully. Yeah.
When you go to a keyword search, I'm sorry.
No. We'll just 1 and 2.
Does it just kick you back to an index term? Is there a highlighted index term that's...
It's in the results. It's not, yeah. Like I said, it's not on top where I think it should be, but yeah.
I would say your problem with explaining, or shall we say promoting indexing, is kind of like the problem I run into with law students. And I try to promote ALR, for instance. The way I put it is that this particular set is like a lot of people doing your homework for you. So you don't have to do it. It basically does well, I guess everyone in here knows what ALR does.
Yeah.
So in indexing, when you think about it, your indexers have done a lot of work for the user already, and it's your job to take, promote that to the students, users, and so on, because if you don't, if you rely on the keyword searching, it's illusory in the fact that it looks easier, but in the end, with all the additional irrelevant results, you're becoming your own indexer anyway.
Right.
And you're doing the work that the indexers already did.
You're right. I think it's a really good point to make. It is that they're doing something, you're getting a leg up. They're saving you time, and that's what they're... Yeah, I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to quit on us. Yeah.
I really like this topic, especially what the last gentleman mentioned. Slate had an interesting article 2 days ago about how we read online and how to make a better article where hyperlinks, doing all this work for the reader already so the reader can build credibility in the article, and just makes it easier for the reader to do more research on it.
You said 2 days ago?
Yeah, on Slate.
Cool. Well, thanks very much. I like quitting early because, like I say, index is all about saving time. Thanks very much for your presentation.
Are you down there?
I'm sorry, one more thing. Please don't forget we have handouts up here. Take one, take two. If you want more, I can send you more. Absolutely.
I mean, we can stop back in.
So it is. You can come on in. I'll do now.
Open source.
Second.
Well, I'm going to go because my IT guy wants my laptop. Oh, okay.
I think it's This is sort of related to the media and my thoughts. I don't know if you still want me to go here. I don't think I can do it.
It sounds like
Yeah, the Amazon cloud sounds like a server drinks thing. But where the magic is about it. Yeah. I was just saying, had a very good experience.
These guys, well, just crazy. You're hankering for the mic.
so
Yeah, well, we're just